And now for something completely different. So, who remembers the nutty TV show called Monty Python's Flying Circus? Some people thought it was brilliant and some thought it was unmitigated tosh. But nobody who watched it could ever forget the six nutters who created such classic sketches as the Spanish Inquisition, the Lumberjack Song, how to identify trees from quite a long way away, and a personal favourite, the Spam Song. But John Cleese and the team are nowhere to be seen in this Virgin's computer game of the same name. Nope, the star is Mr DP Gumby, the dim-witted cartoon character who has literally lost his mind. You see, his brain has split into 4 parts and each has done a runner, which dashes Gumby's hopes of becoming a chartered accountant. Well, until the rogue grey matter can be recaptured, that is. So, why not? Today we're going to look at the Monty Python's Flying Circus, the computer game, which is a 1990s scroll and shoot 'em up video game developed by Core Design. You know, the guys behind Tomb Raider, but before that they'd done some pretty good games on the computers, but I also liked their games they'd done in the Sega CD, and if you're interested, well, I did do a video of Core Design and the Sega CD games that they'd done. Check it out. Anyway, Monty Python's Flying Circus the game was released for the Amiga, the Atari ST, the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC and the ZX Spectrum. And there was also an MS-DOS version, and we will look at that too, but let's start by looking at the Amiga version first. So, let's dive in, shall we? Now, some people, including myself, would say that trying to produce a computer game based on a cult TV show is asking for trouble. And when that show is Monty Python, it is more like asking for a dead parrot to be stuffed in your ear. And despite this rather unwholesome possibility, Monty Python is indeed the subject of our retrospective game review. As I've already mentioned, the story revolves around Gumby and his search for his brain. For the very first screen, you will know that this is no ordinary game. I mean, check it out. Gumby's progress under falling 16-ton weights has followed closely, but what can only be described as a bush on legs. What was it up to? I have no idea, but I'm sure it did not either. After that, things go from zany to zanier. Armed with an unlimited supply of explosive fish, the aim of each of the 4 levels is to collect 16 tins of spam before progressing on to the next level. And this search involves traversing a number of levels in which you explode cheeses, collect food, spam eggs, sausage and beans of course, and you fend off nasties and face the ambiguous end of level guardian, all armed with a couple of whiffy wet fish. And on our first level, well, Gumby is a fish swimming around in sewers, shooting cheese to reveal spam. And there's a bit of puzzling involved too. Shooting fish down pipes occasionally makes spam pop out another pipe. Oh, fantastic really, I have to say. And bizarrely, your score starts at 99 million points, and you lose points as you play the game. And for every 10 million lost points, you get another life. And throwing fish at silly places also causes you to lose points. And if you lose enough points, well, you'll obtain 9 lives, which will regenerate indefinitely, making your Gumby invincible. Such a bizarre game, and there's also creatures and oddities from the show, like the dead parrots, Eric the Hawk Bee, the Minister for Silly Walks, and the Spanish Inquisition are in Gumby's path, and touching one, well, that'll drain his energy. But please do not be fooled, because behind this boringly normal scenario lies a game which will have even confirmed Python haters like me hooked. This game is a great send-up of itself and the whole gaming world. I mean, come on, have you ever watched an opening sequence where the head of the character you're about to become opens up and his brain makes a dash for the wide blue yonder? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, have you ever played a game where the horrible, awesome, powerful end-of-level guardian is a minister of the church? And of course, it's pretty original to have a score of 99 million points and try to lose as many points as possible in order to earn a place in the extremely silly scores board. I like that. And of course, has your dear sweet Amiga ever farted at you before? No, I thought not. See, it's a funny game. Anyway, on to level 2. Level 2 and Gumby hops into a surreal landscape and gets on with a lot of platform action while avoiding exploding fingernails and the like. It's all very silly, but again, it's all fun. The last 2 levels involve Gumby being a bird in the sky and then being normal Gumby in a factory of sorts. Most of the time Gumby travels between scenes in this usual way. Occasionally, however, he will find himself in a sort of preparation zone where his head is disengaged from his body with a satisfying plonk and attracted to something more suitable, a fish or a spring for example. And once the operation is over, well, a mechanical prodder will shove him off in the right direction. Monty Python is full of the unexpected. Just when you think you've got the hang of things, the screen, it goes blank and you will get a game over message. And I'm thinking, hang on, I had 2 lives left. Then a message will appear, the flipping machine's popped its dongle again. But then a message will appear apologising for the break in your game and telling you that normal service will resume as soon as possible. And then suddenly a flickery black and white breakout clone appears on the screen. Then there's another apology and then play is resumed. Brilliant, it really is. I love it. And I tell you, all of this is not just to lose lives, it's just to see that infamous foot descend and crush poor Gumby. It's all quite funny, it really is. For me, Monty Python is a good piece of entertainment. I certainly had plenty of laughs playing this game, I really did. I suppose perhaps my only complaint is that the game is a bit on the difficult side of things. If it were a normal arcade game, I might say it was a bit easy, but trying to concentrate on reaching the end of the level when falling off your chair with laughter is bound to lose a number of lives. So, for that reason, it was a bit distracting and I did find the game a little bit more difficult than it should have been. But it's because it's funny. Now, the rest of the versions we're going to look at, they all have similarities, slight differences in graphics and sound. The biggest key difference is that the Amiga and the Atari ST and MS-DOS has much more powerful hardware compared to the 8-bit computers of the Amstrad CPC, ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64. So, before I get into the Amstrad, ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64 versions, we'll look at the MS-DOS and then we'll look at the Atari ST version. So here we are, we're on the PC version, the MS-DOS, and I have to say the PC version looks very good, just as good as the Amiga version. Sharp graphics, smooth controls, all of which moves at a good speed. I have to say this game looks good, and it still looks good even today. And the PC version also has the intermissions, as we saw in the Amiga version. Again, some from the show, which is pretty cool, all very Monty Python. For me, the PC is a great version of the game. Not too sure if it beats Amiga, but it is very close. There's not a lot in it, but I would say that Amiga has the edge over the PC when it comes to the actual soundtrack and the effects. But it's just a minor observation if I'll be honest with you. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the game. Okay, here's the Atari ST version of Monty Python's Flying Circus. Again, it's a pretty good version, very similar to the Amiga and the Atari ST. But I would certainly say that the graphics are perhaps not as good as the PC or the Amiga versions, but it is still pretty good. Okay, so let's have a look at the 8-bit computer versions, starting off with the Amstrad CPC. The Amstrad CPC version looks vibrant and superb. Sure, as expected, the graphics are not nearly as sharp as we saw in the Atari ST, the Amiga or the MS-DOS, but I have to say, it's certainly one of the more colourful versions that we're going to see here. And it's also one of the fastest versions of the game, and it also plays pretty smooth. It is a good version of the game, I do like it. However, I have to say there's no music, only the music on the title screen. Though I have to say that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the music that we heard in the Amiga and the Atari ST and the MS-DOS, it can be a little bit irritating after a while, so not having music's not a big loss. Though I would say the sound effects are pretty decent while you're playing the game, and that more than makes up for the lack of music. And I suppose that the other downside of the game is that there are no interludes in the Amstrad version when compared to the Amiga version. But again, it's not a massive loss, and I have to say the game is good. The controls are very good too, and I like this version of the game, so let's have a look, shall we? Right, here we are, we're on the ZX Spectrum version of the game. So, what would I say about this game? Well, it's basically the CPC version, but with fewer colours. Some of the levels have that typical specky monochrome colours. With regards to the level design, well, it's basically again the same as the CPC version too. It's just a straight port, really. I did like the opening tune, although that fart noise at the end of the tune is not as good on the specky sound hardware, I have to say. Again, it's a good game, and ZX Spectrum owners will not be disappointed. Definitely one for the collection. And finally, here we are, we're on the Commodore 64 version. Right, okay, what would I say about this game? Well, it is a faithful conversion of the game, but I have to say it's my least favourite out of all of them. Although the opening title music is okay, it's not the best version. The SID chip can certainly do much better here. And I was also expecting a bit more around the graphics. I mean, the Commodore 64 is a technically speaking, a more powerful computer compared certainly to the Specky and the Amstrad CPC, but yet I find that this is the weakest version when it comes to the graphics. But in saying all that, it's still a good game, it's still worth playing, it's got all the characteristics and gameplay of all the other games. It's certainly still a good game, albeit the graphics and sound could have been better. So, looking at all of these games, I would say that they're all good to play. However, the best version for me is the Amiga version. Great graphics, sound, and also it has the best fart noise at the end of the title soundtrack. I'm also equally impressed with the PC version, but I would say it's probably my second choice. Both look good and played very similar, however I would say that the Amiga has the edge over the PC when it comes to the soundtrack and effects, as I've already mentioned. I suppose the music can be a little bit irritating while it's constantly being played on a loop. Therefore, you might want to switch the soundtrack off. Now, I did like the interludes that are included on both the Amiga and the PC too. They were excellent, I enjoyed those, and they made the game very Monty Python. So, overall, the Amiga version is my number one choice, followed by the PC version. However, I have to say it doesn't matter which version you own, you're still going to have fun playing this game. All versions are worthy of your collection. Now, contemporary reviews of the game were mixed, ranging from relatively high, 89% for the Atari ST from Zero magazine, to poor 47% for the Commodore 64 version from the Zap 64 magazine. For me, it would have been all too easy to just bang out a bog standard platform game with a few Python related characters bouncing about and rely on the name to shift the units. However, that's not the case here. Core have done a surprisingly good job in translating the feel of the Python gang's humour, from the superb graphics to the occasional intermissions, where an obscure off-the-wall gag appears. And behind the impressive appearance of the game, well, the game itself is also rather playable, which means that those unfamiliar with Python humour can get into the gameplay. So overall, a good trip down memory lane and worthy playing if you're a true Pythonite. So, there you go folks. That was my retrospective video covering the Monty Python Flying Circus games. Now, have you played any of these games? If so, let me know, and please share your thoughts of any of these games that you've played. Do you think it's good, or do you think it's a poor game? Let me know. Finally, thank you very much for watching my video, it's very much appreciated. Now, remember to press that like button, leave a comment, and better still please, subscribe if you haven't already. This will certainly help my channel grow if you do that, so please subscribe. Until the next time, take care, thank you, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.